At Zhang Gao Han consumed so many prop cards. If I really encountered the encirclement of those villains, I'd be finished, my dear teacher. Then, within the system space, he gave the order, System, open the attribute interface. The system displayed the information, name, Ling Tian, race, human, lifespan, 525 days 23 hours 36 minutes, position, Xianming Sect Master, Demon Dao Grand Master, first on the Celestial ranking, cultivation, Grand Ultimate Martial General Realm, cultivatable state, absolute area range, 1,322 centimeters, exchange points, 6,832 points, main mission, clean up the sect, rebuild the foundation, February 9th, investigate the truth behind the Master-Disciple Rift. Lucky points, 20 points, skills, remaining at prediction, 3 uses today, disciples, Mo Tran Tuet, loyalty, 95%, Truck Hung Tu, loyalty, minus 40%, mount, Chong Ming Bird, ancient divine bird, supreme special grade. He stroked his chin thoughtfully. For now, lifespan and area range are sufficient. The most urgent need is to earn more exchange points. When there's a price discount, I'll replenish some props. Main mission completion rewards the most points. Who should I deal with next, those villains? Suddenly, his eyes flew open. He looked at the notice board. The words were suddenly jumbled. Ling Tian exclaimed. But what's going on? Involuntarily, he sank to his knees. His face was ashen, devoid of life, and his body trembled uncontrollably. Ling Tian thought fearfully. My consciousness is fading. No way, I can't faint now. Everything around him went dark, and he quickly collapsed. Ling Tian lay unconscious on the ground. From behind, the footsteps of Truck Hung Tu approached. His facial expression darkened, moving closer to him. He raised his hand to his chin, letting out a strange smile. It was an opportunity of a lifetime. Hee. The rain poured down from the sky like a light drizzle. Ling Tian remained motionless on the ground. His eyes slowly opened. His body remained still as he thought to himself. His consciousness was fading. Why? Hearing the noise, Ling Tian looked up in surprise. It was Truck Hung Tu, moving closer towards him. Feeling him stop beside his body, he trembled and said, Truck Hung Tu, help me back. He sat down. Back? He grinned slyly. Sorry, Ling Tian, you'll never be able to go back. Then, he pulled out a knife from somewhere and plunged it into his chest. His eyes widened in utter shock. Ling Tian's gaze gradually faded. Truck Hung Tu looked at him, with a smug expression, saying, Safe travels, Ling Tian. I'll help the Mingjiao sect return to its peak. He struggled, calling his name, Zhu, but before he could finish, he quickly slipped into unconsciousness. It was getting blurry. Then, he finally faded away. His eyes slowly opened. He could vaguely see Tran Tuet's face. Before that blurry figure, Tran Tuet's voice rang out. Master. He began to regain consciousness. Tran Tuet's tears continued to roll down her cheeks. She looked at him, sobbing. Master, you're finally awake. Seeing him trying to sit up, she quickly reached out to stop him. Are you okay? Don't sit up. In the face of her worry, he reassured her. I'm fine, disciple. Ling Tian turned his head towards the door. He thought to himself. Was that a dream? What a bizarre dream. Suddenly, his eyes widened. Ling Tian winced in pain, clutching his chest. Seeing this, Tran Tuet worriedly asked. Master, what's wrong? He gritted his teeth, thinking to himself. It feels like I'm being torn apart, so painful. Outside, Truck Hung Tu rushed in, shouting. What happened, little junior sister? Is Master dead? Tran Tuet's expression was full of anger at his words. She yelled back. You crow-mouthed fool! I wish you were dead! Master is perfectly fine. He went to the bed and exclaimed. Finally, Master is awake! His expression turned sour as soon as he saw him. He questioned. You vile creature! Do you wish for your master to die soon? Is it to claim all the rare and precious techniques and treasures in the Cold Heart Mountain? Seeing this, Truck Hung Tu quickly knelt down and repeatedly apologized. My disciple absolutely has no such intention. I was simply overly worried about my master and spoke rashly. Please forgive me. His face darkened, and he spoke. Tran Tuet, help me up. Truck Hung Tu, who was kneeling below, suddenly stepped closer to Ling Tian and helped him to his feet, urging him. Master, you shouldn't be walking around now, or you'll risk further injury to your vital energy. The medicine will be ready soon. I'll bring it to you later. Tran Tuet, standing beside him, added. Master, how are you feeling now? You've scared us these past few days. Especially Brother Zhu. He brought so many renowned doctors, but none could cure your injuries. I thought you were going to. Seeing his two disciples so worried, he reassured them. I'm fine now. I'll be completely healed after a few days of rest. Ling Tian looked over at Truck Hung Tu. The system popped up with a notification. Truck Hung Tu's loyalty, minus 40%. He looked at him, thinking to himself, this guy's loyalty is still negative. He didn't take the chance to kill me and claim this entire absolutely lonely mountain for himself. However, this only makes it clearer what Truck Hung 2 really needs. It's 100,000 times more precious than rare treasures or powerful martial arts. Seeing him staring, he widened his eyes and asked, "Master, what's wrong? Why are you looking at your disciple like that?" Faced with his question, Ling Tian suddenly smiled. He looked at him and praised, "You performed quite well in this fight, you've worked hard, Truck Hung 2. His eyes widened. He saw him smiling at him. Truck Hung 2 scratched the back of his head, looking very embarrassed. "It's nothing, Master, this is what a disciple should do." The system appeared, displaying that Truck Hung 2's loyalty had increased from -40% to -10%. Additional reward, 500 points. Seeing his loyalty increase, I looked at him with a helpless expression, thinking to myself, a smile can be so powerful, it seems this guy likes this kind of thing. Seeing him covered in dirt, I reminded him, "Xing Tu, go wash your face quickly. You have ash all over it. Just tell Tran Tuet to bring the medicine to me." He replied, "Yes, Master." On the table, there was a bowl of green medicine, steaming and looking extremely terrifying. Tran Tuet used a spoon to carefully feed me the medicine. Facing her full bosom, my face turned crimson. On her side, seeing that I wouldn't open my mouth, she advised, "Why don't you open your mouth, Master? Bitter medicine cures illness." Looking at her heaving chest, I replied awkwardly, "Well, let me drink it myself." I raised my hand, suggesting. After a while, the medicine finally ran out. Ling Tian turned his head to ask Tran Tuet, "You said I've been unconscious for 2 days and 2 nights, right?" She replied, "Of course. My brother and I were worried sick. To save you, my brother went to great lengths to invite the best doctors from half of the Central Plains, but nothing worked. If it wasn't for the mysterious doctor, known as Divine Hand Devil, who finally stepped in, I don't know when you would have woken up." Hearing this, Ling Tian put his hand on his chin and thought to himself, "Truck Hung 2 went to such lengths to save me. What exactly is he planning?" After a while, Ling Tian gently asked Tran Tuet to leave. "Tran Tuet, you've been taking care of me for days, you must be exhausted. Go back and get some rest today." "I'm also a bit tired and need to rest," she replied. "Yes, Master. Just call me if you need anything." Tran Tuet quickly left. As soon as she left, he summoned the system and said, "System, open my attribute interface." As the system appeared, his eyes widened in utter astonishment. System notification. Exchange points 2,832 points. Looking at his remaining points on the system, his expression was startled. He exclaimed, "Clearly, it was 6,832 points before, but where did those 4,000 points go?" Suddenly, he remembered what Tran Tuet had said. To save his master, Bamboo Master Brother had done everything to invite the most amazing doctors across half of the central continent, but it was all in vain. Understanding the reason for his points loss, his eyes filled with anger, Ling Tian growled, "Bamboo Hung 2, this damned bastard never disappoints." He slammed his hand on the table, the other hand covering his mouth, his face pale. He kept coughing. Seeing the blood in his palm, his body couldn't help but tremble. His expression turned pale again. He tried to reach out and click on the pill section of the system. Sure enough, the Long Yang Bai Chuan antidote pill had the same properties as described, a highly potent poison. See if the store has anything that can reduce the pain in the body. Looking at the price of the pill, he was startled and shouted, "Damn it, it costs 1,000 points to exchange. Forget it, just rob it." Despite its high price, Ling Tian finally clicked the buy button. He held the pill in his hand, frowning. "Damn it, I hope it works." Without hesitation, he quickly popped the pill into his mouth. A powerful surge of spiritual energy emanated from his body. Seeing his health restored, he raised his hand in front of him, observing, "My injuries are gone in the blink of an eye. This 1,000-point pill is truly something else." The system appeared. The system announced, "Special offer available." 3 cards with different functions appeared before him. Absolute Block, High-Grade Celestial Artifact, Celestial Form Shield, High-Grade Celestial Artifact, Anti-Bullet Shield, Special Grade Celestial Artifact. The function of the first card appeared. Absolute Block, High-Grade Celestial Artifact. This item is a passive trigger card. If the host is attacked, they can proactively use this card to prevent all damage. Requires equipping before activation. Exchange points, 300 points. Next up is the second card, the Qi Shield High-Grade Artifact. This is an active activation card. When attacked, the host can crush the card to form a full-body shield, an invisible and all-encompassing armor. The Qi Shield lasts for 30 seconds. During these 30 seconds, any attack cannot harm the host. Exchange points, 400. And finally, the third card, the Bullet Reflecting Shield Special Grade Artifact. This is an active activation card. When the host is attacked, using this card will form a crescent-shaped armor that can reflect 79% of the attack damage back to the opponent. Exchange points, 500. He looked at the cards displayed on the notification board, then put his hand on his chin and thought. They were all defensive cards. While not as comfortable as attack cards, it's good to equip a few during this rare opportunity. The system displayed a congratulatory message. Congratulations, host, on receiving a high-grade artifact Absolute Block card, a high-grade artifact Invisible Chi Shield card, a special-grade artifact Bullet Reflecting Shield card, consuming 1200 exchange points. He looked at his remaining exchange points, then put his hand on his chin and thought, what should I do with the remaining exchange points? Of course, gotcha. Hee hee. His eyes lit up, and he reached out to tap on the system's gift box, looking extremely excited. Looking at the cards floating in front of him, his expression turned pale and incredibly disappointed. His body trembled uncontrollably with anger, as he exclaimed, 10 times in a row, nothing but crap, what a life. At the same time, the system displayed, remaining exchange points, 132 points. Accumulated luck points, 30 points. Ling Tian wasn't discouraged, he continued to press the button again, but his determination was met with an unexpected result. He put his hand on his forehead, looking utterly helpless, damn it, yet Ling Tian was determined not to give up. He raised his hand in front of him, his eyes radiating an intimidating aura, one last draw. His last hope. He then used all his strength to press the prize draw button on the system and shouted, one shot to the heavens. The system announced, thanks for coming. Accumulated luck points, 32. Even though he had put all his hopes on this final shot, it wasn't what he expected in the end. Ling Tian could only cry out in despair at the system. He slumped onto the table in helplessness. The system suddenly appeared. The system asked, luck points have reached 30. Would you like to use 20 luck points to open a mysterious gift box? Looking at the system notification, he put his hand on his chin and pondered, 30 luck points. I wonder if I should skip the 20-point gift pack and open the 30-point one? Before, I used 10 points to unlock the Eye of Judgment, the Clear Sight Bird, and the Mysterious Fairy. Using 30 points, how many treasures will I get? After some hesitation, he finally made a decision. I want to use 30 luck points to open the mystery gift pack, the system announced. Receiving 30 luck points, the system is opening the mystery gift pack. From the system, a dazzling light appeared. The system announced. Congratulations, host, on receiving level artifact. From within his body, golden light appeared. He looked at it, surprised, and exclaimed, what is this? A blue beam of light emanated from the energy sphere hovering in front of him, shining brightly. Ling Tian reached out his hand and manipulated the sphere, questioning, what is this? As the energy source disappeared, 2 books appeared. He exclaimed, manuals, the system announced. Congratulations, host, you have received the complete collection of the 9-gate martial arts, a divine technique lost since ancient times. Master it to the highest level, become the lord of all realms, and nothing is impossible. Ling Tian opened the manual and glanced through it, surprised. Lord of all realms, nothing is impossible? This manual is the top of the top. Suddenly, his eyes widened. He looked at the manual in front of him, open but without a single character. He was astonished and blurted out, how come there are no characters? Ling Tian angrily yelled. The other one's the same. Nothing at all. So you want me to learn with my feet? The system appeared in front of him again. System notification. Detected host acquired the Qi Men Jiu Shu records. Collected related data, displayed on your personal attribute interface. After reading, he commanded system, open attribute interface. The system displayed all of Ling Tian's information. Ling Tian looked at the system, then put his hand on his chin, his expression full of scrutiny. If this were just a type of cultivation technique, after mastering it and improving one's cultivation, that would be it. Why would it need to be separated into 2 different information sections? On the other hand, the system appeared again. System notification, side quest activated. Amidst the vast ocean of books, diligence is the path. In the endless sea of learning, perseverance leads to success. 1 Qi Men Jiu Shu records, break through and master it, rise to fame. Wish the host an early success in deciphering the secret, mastering the profound mysteries within. Nothing is impossible. Congratulations on the host's activation of the side quest, earning exchange points, 200 points. Holding the book in his hand, he trembled with joy. Not only does it have its own information section, it also has its own quest. This is it. This Qi Men Jiu Shu records must be a top-tier treasure. It's a compilation of all the super VIP cultivation techniques in the world. As if he had found a priceless treasure, his eyes lit up with anticipation. But after looking at the book repeatedly, he still didn't know how to solve it. How on earth do I decipher this thing? This Qi Men Jiu Shu records doesn't have a single word in it. Suddenly, he remembered the martial arts films he had watched, and he asked in confusion. Wait. Could this be a scriptless heavenly book, like in those martial arts films? The scene shifts to a location near the lotus pond. A fishing line is dangling in the water. Its truck hung too, sitting on a rock near the pond, fishing. While fishing, he was secretly afraid and wondered. I thought Master would punish me for this, but it's strangely peaceful. Did Master not realize I disguised myself as the 5th senior sister? Logically, that's impossible. Could Master be giving me a chance to apologize on my own? From the rooftop, a beam of light continuously streamed down. He looked up, his expression full of surprise. That's Ling Tian, he softly replied nearby. Truck Hung Tu followed with his eyes, silently exclaiming in his mind, Master, Master, how agile his movements are. Earlier the divine doctor said he couldn't use his spiritual power for 2 months, but he looked at him, constantly amazed. Suddenly, Ling Tian took a book from his person, one he had just received from the system. Then, he dipped it into the lake. Opening the book, there wasn't any change. Nothing at all. Seems like this isn't the way. Having said that, he dashed away like a gust of wind, leaving Truck Hung Tu sitting there, his eyes wide with astonishment at his speed. Following the same path, he leaped onto the roof and returned. He looked on, his expression turning dark, silently thinking, could it be that Master got electrocuted? In the kitchen, Tran Tuet is holding ingredients and walking around the room. She holds 2 pigeons in her hands, her expression full of excitement. Tonight she'll use these 2 pigeons to nourish her master. Suddenly, her eyes widen in surprise. It's him. He's holding the book and putting it into the fire. Seeing his strange action, Tran Tuet blurts out, Master, what are you doing? After a moment, he quickly takes the book out. Seeing that the book hasn't changed at all, his expression is filled with frustration. He says, It seems fire isn't the answer. This is annoying. After realizing his idea is ineffective, he quickly leaves the kitchen. As he departs, he wonders to himself, What should I do? What should I do? Tran Tuet stood behind him, her eyes fixed on his back. His bizarre behavior startled her. She quickly covered her mouth and exclaimed in disbelief. Could Master have gone mad? Suddenly, from out of nowhere, Truck Hung Tu appeared beside Tran Tuet. He said, What you see, I see too. She turned to him, surprised, and exclaimed, Senior brother! She looked at him with a questioning gaze and asked, What do you think? Could it be that the doctor you found has a problem? Even he himself couldn't understand, and he asked back, Don't look at me, I don't know either. But don't you find it strange? How could Master's wound heal so quickly? The scene shifts to his room. Lang Tian held a white notebook in his hand, trembling uncontrollably. He looked at it, filled with anger and frustration, and asked helplessly, Damn it! I've tried everything I could think of. How can I possibly get the words to appear on this? Never mind. Perhaps it will suddenly appear one day. Let's deal with something else first. In the end, he still had to give up. He quickly put the 2 notebooks into his own space. At this moment, he remembered his disciple and asked, Where's Hung Tu? As soon as he finished speaking, Truck Hung Tu quickly appeared in front of him, reaching out his hand to pay his respects. Master, what are your commands? He looked at him, his expression darkening, and asked, What happened during the days I was unconscious? Tell me everything. Truck Hung Tu replied, As you command, Master. After Master's duel with the 4th senior brother, the whole martial arts world was in an uproar 2 days later. Not only that, but the sects in other countries also began investigating your affairs. Lang Tian looked at him in surprise and asked, Really? So, what about your other senior brothers and sisters? Truck Hung Tu continued to answer, The senior brothers and sisters have been quiet for the time being. Especially the Truong Tan sect of the 1st and 2nd senior sisters. They have been acting very secretly lately. It's even clear that they have stopped many of their ruthless activities. As for the Yuhan Jiao of the 3rd senior brother, the Tu Kan Dain of the 7th senior brother, and the Thien Tru Kung of the 5th senior sister, they are still as busy as usual. All activities continue without any decrease. But the spirit of the 7th senior brother was consumed by hatred for the master after he killed the 4th senior brother. After listening to his tale, Ling Tian quickly dismissed the story. He looked at him and asked, I understand. I have one last question. Why did your 5th senior sister, Mo Yaoli, run away during the previous battle? His eyes widened at the question, his face filled with shock. His body trembled as he raised a hand to answer, thinking to himself, What needs to be done must be faced. Seeing his reaction, Ling Tian felt a sense of unease. His own body exuded a chilling aura. He asked, voice low and threatening, I'm asking you. Truck Hung Tu quickly knelt down. He bowed his head before Ling Tian and confessed, Master, I am guilty. At that time, 5th senior sister asked me to have someone impersonate you. Big senior brother and 2nd senior sister were also disciples invited to act. Please forgive me, Master. Lang Tian's face darkened. He raised his hand to his chin and repeated his words, acting? Your courage is growing by the day, Truck Hung Tu. Facing his question, he was startled and explained, I originally wanted to lure 4th senior brother here to apprehend him. I didn't expect him to hide his strength. Disciple is guilty. Please punish me. Knowing his transgression was unforgivable, Truck Hung Tu quickly bowed his head in confession. Surprisingly, Lang Tian didn't immediately rebuke him but proposed, Punishment is inevitable, but in consideration of you escorting me back, I will put it off for now. Seeing this, his eyes widened in surprise. Seeing that he wasn't going to be punished, Truck Hung Tu cowed out and thanked him profusely. Thank you, master. From now on, your disciple will never repeat this offense. His actions left Truck Hung Tu in disbelief. He thought to himself, I thought he would use the heavenly thunder again. Master has never been so lenient before. Ling Tian didn't pursue the matter further, he asked. Where is your fourth senior brother buried? Truck Hung Tu quickly reported. Master, I have placed him in the courtyard of the Jingwe sect, to be looked after by them. Ling Tian thought to himself. Jingwe sect, Truck Hung Tu is indeed different. He's like a fox with a hidden agenda. Remembering something else, he continued. Right, what about your sixth senior brother Yuan Zmo and your ninth junior sister Du Yuan Qing? Why haven't you mentioned them? Truck Hung Tu, who was kneeling, was startled when he heard the question. He trembled and stammered they. Seeing him hesitate, Ling Tian walked down towards him. What's wrong? Is this question so difficult to answer, or are you trying to cover for them? His face filled with killing intent as he spoke in a cold voice. Seeing your anger, Truck Hung Tu quickly knelt down. He trembled, explaining. I didn't expect Master to suddenly mention them, so I don't know how to answer. Ling Tian spoke in anger, clearly and specifically. Tell me everything you know. Truck Hung Tu's body continued to tremble. They're no longer alive. His expression fell into a state of despair as he spoke. Seeing this, Ling Tian turned his head and asked. You're saying they are dead? Truck Hung Tu's face darkened as he replied. Yes, master. Hundreds of years ago, they were killed by you. Ling Tian looked at Truck Hung Tu kneeling before him, stunned. What are you saying? You're saying your sixth senior brother and ninth senior sister were killed by me? Seeing me ask him that, he didn't seem surprised. He looked up and asked. Master, you really don't remember anything? Ling Tian looked at him with a contemplative expression. In his mind, he thought Truck Hung Tu didn't seem to be lying, but he had no memory of this. Could it be related to the missing part of my memory? But why is the mission system? Clean up the sect, rebuild the system's foundation, and it shows that 9 people need to be dealt with? That's strange. Truck Hung Tu waited for a long time but didn't get a response from him. His expression was a little unhappy. He thought to himself, Master's mind is really messed up the wound heals instantly, and he even throws books into water and fire, and now he even asks about this. After a moment of contemplation, he looked at him and made a request. Why don't I have any impression of you, Master? Stand up and tell me the whole story of that year. Truck Hung Tu looked at him and asked solemnly. Master, do you still remember the Shenhe River border between Zhongzhou and Shiyu a few hundred years ago? You killed the 6th senior brother and the 9th senior sister who betrayed the sect right there, Ling Tian asked. Did I kill them just because they betrayed me? He answered resolutely. Yes. After hearing Truck Hung Tu's explanation, you narrowed your eyes and pondered. The distance between the Shenhe River and the Absolute Love Mountain is quite far. With the personality you had back then, you wouldn't have bothered to go that far. It doesn't make sense. He looked at you and continued. Your disciple doesn't know the reason either. I only remember that year, Master wanted to wipe out the sect. My fellow disciples had to join hands to fight against Master to protect their lives. That year, after hearing the news of my 6th senior brother and 9th senior sister being killed by Master, I fled to protect my own life, so I don't know much about what happened. I only became aware of Master and my fellow disciples' actions a few months later. It was said that Master fought with my 3rd, 4th, and 7th senior brothers for 3 days and 3 nights at Qingxi River in Qingzhou Ancient City, Ningliu, Yuan Kingdom. In the end, they tricked him, causing him internal injuries. The 3 of them were also severely injured and went their separate ways. Since then, Master returned to Absolute Love Mountain to recuperate, and never stepped outside again. Even though you don't remember this part, you feel a strange anger deep inside. It seems like this is not just anger at being betrayed. Seeing that you didn't react or reply, Truck Hung Tu asked. Master, don't you remember any of those things now? He looked at him, calculating in his mind, absolutely couldn't let this guy know the reason for his memory loss. At this moment, it was a good opportunity to hide the truth. Then, he looked serious, calmly answered yes. After waking up, the memories in my head were a bit blurry. I think it must be because of the poison from my father. Seeing that, he quickly raised his hand, his expression full of remorse, repeatedly apologizing. All my fault for harming my master. I deserve to die. Seeing him insist on taking the blame, he didn't want to let him down, so he gave him a new opportunity. I give you a chance to redeem yourself, starting today. Help me investigate the matter of my pursuit of you all those years ago. Truck Hung Tu obeyed and answered. Disciple will definitely do everything in my power to investigate. Ling Tian spoke up. All right. You can leave. He replied, yes, master. Scene shifts to another part of Absolute Love Mountain. Tran Tuet was pacing back and forth. She was very worried. What should I do? What should I do? Since waking up, Master has been acting strange. Could he really be going crazy? Before, I felt the Grand Master that senior brother Zhu invited was unreliable, At that moment, there was really no other way. Suddenly, from afar, a voice came to Tran Tuet's ears. It was a conversation. Master, we received a secret report saying that the Demon King's cultivation hasn't weakened at all. He remains at peak condition. The millennial calamity was all a lie. This was a girl with green hair. She was constantly talking to the person beside her. The girl in white stockings and pink lace spoke. That's right, Master. There have even been recent reports saying that he's broken through the heavenly tribulation and reached the realm of the martial immortal. Do you think we should make long-term plans? The old man stroking his beard walked toward the two girls. If you're scared, then leave. I won't make things difficult for you. Seeing all three of them approaching, Tran Tuet questioned, Who are you? How dare you intrude upon the territory of Absolute Love Mountain? All three of them stopped and looked towards her. Tran Tuet continued to speak loudly, regardless of who they were, and asked them to leave immediately. Faced with her dismissal, the girl with blue hair stepped forward and introduced herself. I am a disciple of the Qinyan Mountain Yuanyang Palace. Today, I came with my senior sister and master to visit the Jueqing Mountain. Please convey our message. After hearing this, Tran Tuet's eyes widened, her expression filled with surprise. She thought to herself, Qinyan Mountain, Yuanyang Palace. Qinyan Mountain Yuanyang Palace. One of the most powerful forces in the Shangyuan continent, not to mention how many branches it has across the continent. Just in the Zhongzhou territory, there are over 50. On the surface, it appears to be a martial arts academy, recruiting and cultivating all kinds of talented individuals. As long as you can enter the Yuanyang Palace, you are bound to stand out from the crowd and have a bright future. In the current martial arts sects of various countries, all the sect leaders, heads, masters, elders, and even renowned martial arts masters, all originated from the Qinyan Mountain Yuanyang Palace. It can be said that its power is 1,000 times stronger than that of the Huinmin cult at its peak. The girl with white hair stepped forward from behind, her expression extremely unpleasant, and said, Hey! Girl, can't you hear what my junior sister said? Go and inform them quickly. If you delay our master's time, you'll regret it. Tran Tuet looked at them, her expression not much happier. In her mind, she thought, these two girls' spiritual power is far beyond me. That old man must be even more formidable. Before knowing the opponent's intentions, it's best to try to avoid conflict. Behind her, there was suddenly the sound of footsteps approaching. It was Truck Hung Tu. He walked out without even glancing at them, and said, Just a disciple of the Yuanyang Palace daring to be arrogant on my Tuet Tin Mountain. According to the rules, you should be expelled. Tran Tuet exclaimed, Senior brother Truck. He looked at her and reassured her, Junior sister, don't be afraid, leave this to me. At the appearance of Truck Hung Tu, the girl with blue hair frowned and whispered, Truck Hung Tu, the sword demon. Why is he here? The secret message didn't mention this. Her senior sister beside her added, This guy's strength is not ordinary. At least he has reached the early stage of the martial god realm. Suddenly, the old man behind the two girls laughed out loud and exclaimed, Ha 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 ha. So it's the 8 immortals of Tuet Tin Mountain. I am here today specifically to visit the sect master's tomb. Please inform him. Please inform him. Seeing the old man's humble demeanor, the two girls behind him were furious and whispered, Why is master being so submissive? This Bamboo Xingtu is nothing at all. As the old man approached and spoke, Bamboo Xingtu coldly replied, Oh? So it's old Lu Tu Yuan, the 5th elder of Qinyan Yuanyang Hall. As he finished speaking, the girl with the blue hair behind him was incensed, whispering in annoyance. He dares to speak to our master like that. He doesn't respect our master at all. The senior apprentice sister beside her muttered. Scoundrel! Tran Tuet, standing beside them, looked towards them, puzzled, thinking to herself. Lu Tu Yuan is the 10th ranked master in the martial arts world. What is he doing here at the Xianming cult? Meanwhile, Bamboo Xingtu stood with his arms crossed, blatantly refusing. It's a bad time. My master is currently napping and is not available to see guests. However, Lu Tu Yuan remained unaffected. He smiled and tried to negotiate. I have an urgent matter that needs to be discussed with your master. Please convey my request, Bamboo brother. Yet Bamboo Xingtu remained cold, his expression unwavering as he refused. No matter how important it is, it's not as important as my master's sleep. You all should wait until my master wakes up. Tran Tuet stood behind, her gaze helpless as she looked at him, silently thinking. Juju brother, there's no way he doesn't know this old man's strength. I should remind him. At the same time, she spoke up. Juju brother. Seeing this, the blue-haired girl could no longer contain her anger. She strode forward, furious and shouting. Is this how you treat your guests? We came from 1,000 miles away. You. But before she could finish, Zhu Hengtu narrowed his eyes and looked directly at her. Feeling his gaze, the blue-haired girl fell silent, unable to speak. Sensing the spiritual energy radiating from Zhu Hengtu's body, she thought silently. The realm of that guy is the late stage of the martial god realm. The white-haired girl moved behind Lu Tu Vien, speaking in a low voice. Master, are you ready to make a move? But contrary to her expectations, the old man unexpectedly spoke. All right. We'll wait. Then, Lu Tuveen immediately sat down in a waiting posture. Before the old man's action, both girls behind him exclaimed in unison, Master. This guy clearly intends to make things difficult for us. Why do we have to wait? That's right, why don't we? Seeing his two disciples constantly objecting, Lu Tuveen's face turned black with anger, and he shouted loudly, Shut up. Wait for me. The two girls didn't dare to protest anymore, and replied in unison, As you command. Seeing this, Truck Hung Tu didn't care, quickly turned around and said, Junior sister, let's go. Tran Tuet replied, Yes, senior brother. In the main hall of Absolute Love Mountain, seeing the two of them walk in, Leng Tian asked, What's the commotion outside? Truck Hung Tu raised his hand and bowed respectfully, Master, Lu Tuveen and his two disciples from the Yuan Yang Dian of Qing Yan Mountain have come to pay their respects. Your disciple has stopped them outside the gate. Seeing that he didn't let them in, Leng Tian asked, Why did you stop them? Why didn't you let them pay their respects to me directly? In response to your question, he spoke up, Master, do you recall a few days ago when the sects gathered around Jueqing Mountain, and you killed someone? Ling Tian replied, Li Yuntian, the leader of Shengyun. Truck Hung Tu continued, Yes, this man was a disciple of Lu Tuyuan. I believe they are coming to visit on the surface. But in reality, they want to seek justice for their deceased disciple. Ling Tian looked at him and asked, How does your cultivation compare to theirs? In response to his question, he respectfully answered, Master, two of their disciples, one is weaker than me, and one is on par. As for Lu Tuyuan, his cultivation surpasses mine by far. I believe he has reached the peak of martial god. Ling Tian nodded and sighed after hearing this. Oh? Unexpectedly, in such a short time, Lu Tuyuan has progressed so quickly, it's truly remarkable. Truck Hung Tu spoke up, Master, what should we do next? Perhaps we can find an excuse to send them away. Ling Tian denied and said, No, let them in. I want to rip off the hypocritical masks of these righteous sects. His eyes were filled with killing intent, full of rage. Tran Tuet led the way, followed by the three disciples of Lu Tuyuan, who all entered. The white-haired girl looked around and judged, This is the demon sect that once ruled the world. It's just like this. The blue-haired girl smiled contemptuously and added, Compared to the main hall of our Yuanyang Palace, this place is truly a dog's den. As they just stepped inside the hall, the blue-haired girl looked straight at Lang Tian and said arrogantly, With this kind of strength, you dare to be arrogant with us. Her senior sister standing next to her added, You really don't know your place. Lu Tuyuan was shocked at his appearance. He thought to himself, That's Lang Tian? He doesn't look like an old man who's been struck by a great drought as rumored, but the aura reveals he's only at the level of a martial general. This demon lord must be deliberately hiding his true strength. Tran Tuet approached him and said respectfully, Master, we have arrived. Despite this, he remained unfazed and continued to rest his head on the chair, sleeping. The blue-haired girl, incensed by his actions, exclaimed with anger, This guy is too arrogant. Master, let me teach him a lesson. Seeing this, the old man raised his hand to block her, trying to stop her. Then, the old man looked up at him, bowed, and introduced himself. I am Lu Tuyuan, the fifth steward of Tan Nam Mountain, Yuan Yang Hall. I greet you, Master Ling. Hearing this, he slowly opened his eyes. He looked at the group of people before him and invited them to sit down. Seeing that they didn't know where to sit, Truck Hung Tu, who was sitting next to him, pointed at a stool and said, The seats are here. Please sit. Before them was a stool that looked extremely dilapidated and rickety. Both of Lu Tuyuan's disciples looked at the stool, indignantly exclaiming, How can this be fair? At this point, Lu Tuveen couldn't bear it any longer. His face darkened, and he looked at him straight in the eye, getting to the point. Lang Jiao Chu, if you have no intention of receiving guests, then let me be blunt. Is it true that the leader of the Thuangvan faction, Li Yuntian, was killed by you? Faced with Lu Tuveen's question, Ling Tian leaned back, his expression radiating killing intent. So what if it's true? Upon hearing his confirmation, the old man became furious and roared. Why did you kill him, Lang Jiao Chu? Witnessing Lu Tuveen's tone towards Ling Tian, Truck Hung Tu was enraged and shouted. Lu Tuveen, what kind of attitude is that? How dare you speak to my master like that? The old man turned around, his body radiating a vast amount of spiritual energy. He looked at him and growled. How I speak is none of your business, brat. Seeing Lu Tuveen insult him, Truck Hung Tu refused to back down. He quickly drew his sword, and a powerful surge of spiritual energy emanated from him. He growled, Who are you calling a brat? In the main hall, spiritual energy was pouring out from both sides. They glared at each other, murderous intent flashing in their eyes, ready to attack at any moment. Faced with the chaotic scene, Ling Tian shouted out an order. Hung Tu, retreat! As his words finished, not only Zhu Hung Tu, but also the old man across from him simultaneously retracted their spiritual power. His face turned black, he quickly turned around and left, saying, Out of respect for your master, I'll spare your life. Ling Tian looked at Lu Tuvin and asked. Lu Tuvin, I ask you, what is your identity for coming to demand answers today? The old man replied. Officially, I represent the righteous sects. Personally, I'm here to seek justice for my disciple. Hearing her master's response, the blue-haired girl thought to herself. That's my master. Whether officially or personally, today we stand for the justice of the martial world. On the other side, the white-haired girl secretly felt pleased, thinking. If they dare to act, it will create a conflict between the righteous and the evil sects, and also implicate the Yuanyang Palace. By then, it wouldn't be just facing a small opposing force, but a large transnational area, even facing all the forces across the land. But not taking action, not only would they lose face for Tuet Tin Sun, but also the demon Dao Patriarch of Tuet Tin Sun and the majestic Huin Insect's reputation. She folded her arms with an expression that couldn't be more hateful, glancing at Tran Tuet and Truc Hung Tu. Both of them looked at Tu Lo Vin's group, their anger rising inside, thinking, what a vicious bunch. Lo Tu Vin was stroking his beard, observing him. Inside, he was thinking, let's see what you choose, Ling Tian. Before the anticipation of the group standing below, he cracked a sinister smile. His face was filled with killing intent, accompanied by an incredibly menacing darkness. He looked at them and asked in a harsh voice. Who is threatening me? Lo Tu Vin. The more he emphasized, the more terrifying the killing intent radiating from his body. Up above, thunder also struck down violently. Hearing the thunder, the blue-haired girl turned her head in surprise, thinking to herself, thunder lightning? It's clearly sunny, how come? Instantly, the sky began to pour with rain. Lo Tu Vin saw this, his face turned pale, and he glanced secretly, wondering, this guy, did his anger cause the heavens and earth to change? Ling Tian looked down at the people, thinking to himself, the effect of this heavenly and earth anomaly card is so terrifying? Heavenly and earth anomaly. After using it, it can change the weather, lasting 1 minute. Thankfully I bought it earlier. Then, Ling Tian stepped down. Seeing him descend, Lo Tu Vin looked at him in shock, thinking to himself, could it be that he wants to fight? Isn't he afraid of facing all the righteous sects? As he got closer to them, their faces turned paler. The blue-haired girl standing behind Lo Tu Vin looked at the old man's pale face and said, Old man, reassure the master. What should we do now? Don't be afraid. Ling Tian stepped down and approached them. Lu Tu Yuan looked at him, his face pale, continuously sweating, thinking to himself, this guy is acting completely different than usual. Suddenly he stopped walking, not taking another step. He raised his hand, looked at them, and suggested, Lu Tu Yuan, if you've come all this way, then I'll give you a chance to seek justice as you claim. Make your move. His words shocked the old man and his 3 disciples. The old man thought to himself, this guy conceals his spiritual power so well it's impossible to gauge his realm. Just like that, making a move. Seeing Lu Tu Yuan not responding, he smiled and challenged, What? Afraid? Lu Tu Vin was startled. He looked at him and said smoothly, Langsec Master, this visit is just to seek clarification, not to fight. Moreover, since our 2 sects were founded, we have always kept our distance. If you hadn't killed the Yun Tian, the Yuan Yang Dian would not have come to bother you. Hearing this, Truc Hung Tu, standing beside him, looked bored. He used his hand to scratch his ear, looking at him and said, You talk too much. If you don't dare to attack my master, then fight me. What? You don't dare? Faced with his challenge, Lu Tu Vin's body trembled with anger. His face turned pale, his eyes startled as he thought to himself. Damn it, the situation has reversed. If I attack, it will be seen as the Yuan Yang Dian using force against the weak. Although in the martial arts world, there's no such thing as righteous sects badmouthing each other, or even supporting their own side, but those demonic figures wouldn't let themselves be outdone. After a while, seeing that the old man didn't respond, he quickly turned and walked towards Lu Tu Vin. I have given you a chance. If you're not going to act, then get out. 2 disciples of Lu Tu Vin stared at him, their faces pale, their expressions completely stunned. However, he still didn't want to leave, speaking to settle the matter with one final question. Lang Jiaozhu, I just want to ask one last question. Why did you kill my disciple Li Yuntian? He coldly replied. The Western region Wu clan are foreign beings. For thousands of years they have slaughtered our people, killed our soldiers, constantly violated our agreements. They have waged war with the northern barbarian demon clan, plotting to seize our Zhongzhou borderlands. How many villages have been destroyed? How many soldiers have died? How many people have lost their homes? Against these foreign beings, Lang Tian, I see 1, I kill 1. I see 2, I kill 2. Lang Tian turned his head, his eyes filled with anger and murderous intent. Seeing this, Lu Tu Vin looked at him, his expression full of panic. He thought to himself, How does this man know Li Yuntian's identity? He turned and raised his hand, speaking. A Western region foreign being holding a major sect in Zhongzhou. Not only did they secretly provoke, but they also deliberately formed alliances, suppressed, bullied, and even eliminated other dissenting sects. Such evil intentions deserve death. Do you have any opinion? Seeing everything revealed by you, his eyes were filled with utter surprise. Lu Tuvin trembled and said, So he is a demon. For so many years, I didn't even notice. It's fortunate that the leader of the Ling sect intervened. It eliminated a demon from our midst. Meanwhile, Truck Hung Tu stood beside him, hand on his chin, pondering silently. This guy turns his back so quickly. It seems the rumors are true. On his side, Lu Tuvin bowed and requested to leave. Since I've heard everything from the leader of the Ling sect today, I request to return and report the situation to the sect master. I apologize for the disturbance. I bid you farewell. Immediately afterward, the three of them left together. As they left, Feng Baidao complained discontentedly. Master, are we just going to leave like this? Lam Truck Ni, on the other hand, asked with curiosity. So, is Li Tian really a demon? Faced with his disciple's question, his face turned green. He evaded the question. This is not the time to discuss this. We'll talk about it when we return. Suddenly, his eyes opened wide. In front of them stood Truck Hung Tuesday. He held his sword out, blocking the doorway, preventing them from leaving. He raised his sword before their eyes, a twisted smile spreading across his face. Facing Truck Hung Tu's actions, the old man turned coldly towards him, asking, Sect Master Lung, what is the meaning of this? Ling Tian crossed his arms, repeating the old man's question. What is the meaning? Do I need to explain myself? Understanding his meaning, Lu Tuvin spoke up extremely indignantly. Do you want to break the state of river water not violating well water? Do you know what it means when we fight? Ling Tian didn't respond, a smile gracing his lips. Pointing towards them, Ling Tian said, Attack! Just waiting for him to say this, Truck Hung Tu quickly deployed his own tactics. His eyes lit up, surrounded by countless sword branches surrounding him. Truck Hung Tu smiled and said, the proverb says, a day's journey teaches a basket full of wisdom. Remember this. The Xianming sect is not a place you can come and go as you please. As soon as he finished speaking, he quickly spread his hands, countless swords surrounding him, rushing towards them. Seeing this, Feng Baidao quickly stepped forward. She drew her sword and said, Master, leave this to me. She bowed down. She plunged her sword firmly into the floor. From the ground, the peach blossoms began to bloom. They quickly gathered together, forming a ball of flowers. Truck Hung Tu's eyes widened in shock, his mind racing. My sword can't penetrate. Facing Feng Baicdao's move, Lin Zhu and I smiled and exclaimed, Sister Tao, you are amazing. She propped up her sword, stood in the flower ball, and looked at him with a mocking tone. Is this the power of the legendary sword demon? You're such a disappointment. Facing her attitude, Truck Hung Tu gritted his teeth, filled with anger, and shouted, You arrogant little thing. Once again, she raised her sword high. I will show you the true swordsmanship. Jump. Then, countless swords emerged from her sword, surrounding her with incredibly powerful spiritual energy. Feng Baidao furrowed his brow and shouted, I'll send you to your death. She unleashed her attack. A barrage of swords transformed into a torrent of power, aimed at him. Truck Hung Tu widened his eyes in shock, a silent gasp escaping his lips. The sheer number, he thought. Facing her onslaught, he moved like a gust of wind, dodging the blows and swiftly making his escape. Thanks to his nimble speed, Truck Hung Tu managed to leave the main hall. As he looked at the swirling dust, he thought, even though she's at the same level as me, she's using that intermediate-grade earth-grade weapon to summon an incredible amount of swords. From the dust cloud, Feng Baidao emerged, her voice echoing. Where do you think you're going? Prepare to die. He reacted quickly, engaging her in a fierce duel. Feng Baidao kept attacking him. Truck Hung Tu, on the other hand, gritted his teeth and relentlessly parried her attacks. After a while, he slid slightly, using his foot to keep himself anchored to the ground. Truck Hung Tu was now blocking Feng Baicdao's sword with his own. He smirked, his mouth incredibly cunning, a very bold character. I like it. Hearing him say that, her expression turned furious. She growled, I'll cut off your cunning tongue. Truck Hung Tu smiled in response, then I will slowly play with you. After that, his eyes narrowed. In the main hall, Lu Tuvin spoke. Sect Master Ling, I, Lu, plead once more, let us end this here. Is that possible? Seeing this, Ling Tian stood tall, his gaze filled with anger. A mere executioner of a branch temple, what right do you have to make demands of me? Even if the head of the Yuanyang temple, the old monster Yuan, were to arrive, he wouldn't dare speak to me in such a way. Lam Truck Ni, standing behind, her expression twisted in displeasure. She then charged towards Ling Tian like an arrow, roaring. Demon, you've gone too far! Let me see just how strong you truly are. He looked at her charging towards him with a contemptuous expression. He thought to himself, early-stage martial god. Should I call it courage or stupidity? Suddenly, Trantuet, who was standing beside him, rushed forward and said, If you want to fight my master, then you have to get past me first. She quickly raised her sword towards her. Seeing this, Lam Truck Ni frowned and replied with disdain, Just an early-stage martial king daring to block my path. How foolish! Then she quickly turned around and launched an attack towards Trantuet. The power gap was too much. making it impossible for Tran Tuet to block the attack, and she was quickly knocked back. She slid across the ground, gritting her teeth and thinking, she's too strong. So annoying. At this moment, Ling Tian stepped forward from behind and reached out to support her back. Tran Tuet tilted her head and exclaimed, Master, Lu Tu Vien observed, thinking to himself. So the Xian Min cult is only this strong? Let Zhu Ni continue to test them. He looked towards his disciple and said, Zhu Ni, if the cult leader wants us to fight, then let him see your strength. Let him know what true power is. She replied. Yes. She then began to unleash her power, a powerful source of spiritual energy emanating from her body. Lam Truck Ni stood proudly, looking down at Tran Tuet with utter disdain and said, You're no match for me, little girl. If you don't want to die, get out of my way. As soon as she finished speaking, Zhu Ni's face suddenly turned pale. From behind, a hand rested on her shoulder. Ling Tian reassured her. Tran Tuet, don't be afraid, she's nothing to fear. Tran Tuet hesitated and spoke. But we're 4 realms apart. With me as the center, within 4 zhang, I will definitely protect you. Tran Tuet obediently replied, yes. Seeing this, she charged forward with her sword, roaring, You won't take the easy way out, so you want the hard way. Then I'll kill you both. On Tran Tuet's side, she also drew her own sword and rushed forward. Let's see what you've got. Both swords clashed together. A loud clang echoed. Seeing that she easily parried the attack, her eyes widened in surprise. I blocked it. On Lam Truck Ni's side, she trembled uncontrollably, fear creeping into her mind. How is this possible? There's a huge gap between us. 4 major realms, and 20 minor realms. A blinding light flashed. They were both flung back, skidding across the ground. Lin Zhu Ni's eyes widened in disbelief, a thought racing through her mind. This can't be right. Her spiritual power hasn't changed at all. What's going on? Tran Tuet frowned, seriously pondering the situation. It wasn't her own strength that had increased, but the opponent's power and speed had decreased. This is the power of Master. Suddenly, she turned her head towards the back, smiling at Lang Tian. The system appeared. The system announced, The 9-Gate Techniques Record Volume 1, the first page has been revealed. Rank of the 9-Gate Techniques Record, activated side quest, discover the absolute range of the small fruit. Please quickly expand the range to 2,000 centimeters. Deadline, 15 days. Failure to do so will result in severe punishment. Seeing Tran Tuet ignoring her, she charged forward, shouting furiously. You still have time to look around. Don't underestimate me. Without a single unnecessary movement, Tran Tuet easily blocked Lin Zhu Ni's attack with her sword. She widened her eyes, her expression utterly stunned. Her sword slid past Tran Tuet's. Lam Tuet and Chai couldn't believe her eyes. She trembled and exclaimed, No. Then, she quickly backed away. Her face turned pale, her expression filled with fear. In her mind, she thought, impossible, the difference between me and her is like a lion to an ant. It must be an accident, it must be an accident. Then, she mumbled to herself, comforting herself, accident, accident, accident. She must not have used her full strength. Fueled by anger, Lam Truck Ni quickly unleashed all her power. A powerful aura surrounded her. She rushed forward, roaring, This time, my ultimate move. No more room for hesitation. Tran Tuet stood still, watching her movements, ready to intercept. She smiled, thinking to herself, her speed and strength, although enhanced, were still within controllable limits. What a tough task for the master. In the distance, Ling Tian intently watched them fighting. He commanded from behind, End the fight, Tran Tuet. Suddenly, from above, a familiar voice echoed, It's your trick, the demon. It was Lu Tu Vien, charging towards them, concentrating his spiritual energy in his palm. Ling Tian gritted his teeth, his face darkened, his mind screaming, It's over, the focus. He stretched out his hand, getting closer and closer. Ling Tian stood frozen, his teeth clenched, his heart pounding in terror. He couldn't dodge. His only option was to activate the absolute area. His eyes widened, glancing to the side. He saw Lin Zhu and I holding a sword, attacking towards Tran Tuet, shouting, Die! The situation was dire, both of them in a life-or-death situation. The power of the absolute area was not invincible, as it seemed. The stronger the opponent, the more spiritual energy needed to control them. To simultaneously stop 2 powerful individuals, Ling Tian was powerless. One of them would have to sacrifice their life. Fate could be so cruel. This feeling was no stranger to Ling Tian. If he had known from the beginning that saving people could also lead to his death, would he still have risked it all? Suddenly, a spray of fresh blood splattered onto Ling Tian's face. High in the sky, Truck Hung Tu and Fong Bak Dao stood side by side. Truck Hung Tu extended his left hand, launching a barrage of attacks. Fong Bak Dao was no less formidable. She crossed her arms, radiating an incredibly powerful aura of spiritual energy. The two of them, evenly matched in strength and skill, clashed in a relentless exchange, either gaining an advantage. From their combined attacks, fragments of energy erupted like shards of crystal glass, hurtling toward Truck Hung Tu. Fong Bak Dao was no exception. Truck Hung Tu looked at her and asked, "Do you still want to continue fighting? It's the 10th round already. Why don't we just call it a draw and go our separate ways?" To Truck Hung Tu's suggestion, the senior sister refused to compromise and said, "A draw? Are you kidding? No way." At the same time, she extended her hand, gathering her spiritual energy. This Fong Bak Dao has never lost to anyone since mastering the sword. Thousands of swords appeared around her, forming a large circle. Truck Hung Tu saw his senior sister preparing her move and sighed in exhaustion and frustration, thinking to himself, "I thought I could avoid a major battle in the main hall, but this little girl is so persistent. Just let me go." She extended her hand in front of him and said, "Let you taste my strongest move." Then, all the swords merged into one, forming an enormous sword. He stared at the sword in front of him, his expression utterly shocked. He thought, "She's merging all the swords. It looks like she's about to unleash her final attack." Fong Bai Tao stretched out her hand, controlling the sword, and said, "Savor the most powerful combined sword in the world. The outcome is clear." Immediately, she launched the sword towards him. Even though the massive sword was charging at him with incredible speed, Truck Hung Tu didn't even attempt to dodge. He crossed his arms, stood still, and looked up. "That woman, she's so relentless. She really doesn't have an ounce of cuteness." As his words faded, a beam of light descended from the sky, shattering her two swords. Seeing her ultimate move destroyed so easily, Fong Bai Tao looked up with utter shock. With a heartbroken cry, she exclaimed, "That was my combined sword, formed using all my spiritual energy. How could it be destroyed so easily?" Truck Hung Tu's face turned cold as he spoke. "I gave you a chance. Unfortunately, you didn't know how to appreciate it, so I have no choice but to end this fight." He extended his hand, a bright yellow magic circle appearing behind him. From it, hundreds, even thousands of swords materialized, surrounding Truck Hung Tu and expanding outward. Looking at Truck Hung Tu's swords, Fong Bak Dao exclaimed with worry, "They're too big. What's more, each one holds the power to shatter my combined sword." Truck Hung Tu continued chanting. Hearing his chant, she froze, her expression changing as she spoke. That sounded so familiar. Suddenly, her eyes widened. From within Truck Hung Tu's swords, the figures of monks chanting intently began to emerge. She exclaimed in terror, "It's the sound of sutras being chanted." Dao, with a terrified expression, trembled uncontrollably, stammering, "Could it be the rumors are true? The 100 Swords chant technique, does it really exist? All swordsmanship practitioners have surely heard of this legend. It is a legend as bright as the sun. There was once a talented young man who practiced swordsmanship, and at a young age, defeated all the masters in the world. However, he was framed and imprisoned. In his time of need, he awakened, chanted Buddhist sutras loudly, and comprehended the 100 Swords chant technique, the strongest sword technique. It is said that the 100 Swords chant technique is like a unison recitation of sutras and chants, and it emits a dazzling light that blinds people. Villagers down the mountain thought it was dawn, so they woke up and saw the dazzling light of Xian Kong Temple. They thought it was a living Buddha descending to earth, so they knelt down and prayed for blessings. Seeing Truck Hung Tu perform the technique, she seemed to realize something crucial and exclaimed, "I understand. The pinnacle of the perfect sword isn't about strength or manipulation, it's about resonance. The perfect sword technique creates resonance between ice, scriptures, and spiritual energy, shared among each blade. 1 is 100, 100 is 1. It's truly miraculous." Her body trembled continuously, tears streaming down her face. These tears of senior sister Dao were not from fear but from enlightenment. Seeing her reaction, Truck Hung Tu closed his eyes slightly, calmly saying, "Everything should end here. From now on, worldly matters will no longer trouble you. My sword will grant you liberation." His eyes opened wide, becoming incredibly sharp. Returned to the main hall. Lu Tuyuan raised his hand, attacking Ling Tian and shouting, "Farewell, demon!" Simultaneously, on Trantuet's side, Zhu Er also held a sword and moved forward, yelling, "Die, little girl!" Ling Tian stood still, waiting for the old man to charge. On Trantuet's side, she was no exception. Her eyes were wide with astonishment, intently watching the bamboo blades attack. Lu Tu Vien gathered his powerful spiritual energy and attacked forward. And on the side of the bamboo girl, she also thrust her sword forcefully towards her opponent. Blood splattered across Trantuet's face. Witnessing the scene before her, her body trembled uncontrollably. Looking at his blood-stained face, Trantuet exclaimed, "Master!" After all, her eyes glanced to the side. Before her, she saw the image of Zhu Ni stabbing Lu Tuyuan in the chest with her sword, while he used his own attacking force to injure her. His eyes widened in fear, he exclaimed, "How?" Zhu Ni, not much better, spoke. "Why?" A gruesome scene unfolded before them. Lu Tuyuan turned his head, his voice trembling. "I didn't expect you to be able to switch positions instantly like that, you demon. What level of power have you reached?" Ling Tian remained silent, not answering. However, despite his outward composure, he was secretly worried inside. Almost a disaster if I hadn't upgraded my 9 gate techniques at the crucial moment, the system announced. 9 techniques of the gate. Level 0 equals level 1. Congratulations, host, on obtaining one of the absolute area expansion skills, position swapping. This skill can help the host to change the spatial position of any object within the absolute area. Using this skill will consume a large amount of spiritual energy. Please use it with caution. The 9 techniques of the gate has a total of 9 chapters. Each chapter has a type of absolute area expansion skill. Reaching the main level means possessing the complete absolute area. Seeing Lu Tuivin running away, Tran Tuet shouted. Master, he is running! Lang Tian quickly chased after him, then told Tran Tuet. Watch over this little girl, I'll be back. Outside, the old man kept running. While running, he thought, damn it, the power of this devil is deep and unpredictable. I should escape first. Suddenly his eyes widened in shock. An attack struck in front of the old man. He quickly dodged it due to his agility. That's the way of Truck Hung Tuesday. He, with immense power, stands in front of the old man. He carries Fong Bok Dao on his shoulder, looking at the old man with a sarcastic voice. Where are you in such a hurry? Don't you need your beloved disciple anymore? The old man shouts. Get out of my way, or else. But before he could finish his sentence, Lang Tian appeared behind him, repeating Lu Tuyuan's words. Or else, what do you want? Seeing himself surrounded, with no way to escape, he cursed. Damn it! Lang Tian, with a cold face, commands Xing Tu arrest him. I will reward you handsomely. Truck Hung Tu obeys and replies, yes, master. He looks at Lu Tuyuan and asks, Lu Tuyuan, do you know why my master wants to kill you? Because ordinary people hate those who take advantage of weaknesses to threaten others. You even dare to use the name of the righteous path and the power of the Yuan Yang temple to threaten people. You are sick. Feeling like he had hit a nerve, the old man looked up at him in panic. He looked at them, shouting in anger. You, the Xianming cult, are demons. Since ancient times, good and evil have never been able to coexist. Even if I, Lu Tuvin, didn't come to seek justice, other righteous sects would have come. Seeing that he refused to admit it, and kept defending himself, Truck Hung Tu spoke up and exposed him. Lu Tuvin, don't think that the world doesn't know, the Xianming cult doesn't know either. He looked at him and asked. You insolent disciple, what do you know? Truck Hung Tu smiled, his face full of pride. Of course, it's your identity, old demon Lu. The old man widened his eyes in astonishment, and looked at him. He pretended not to know, staring in bewilderment, continuously denying. What old demon? I have no idea what you're talking about. Truck Hung Tu's smile vanished. His eyes turned cold. You vile Wu Clan villain, stop pretending. Do you want me to expose your Wu Clan title? 100 Ghosts Evil Walk. As he finished speaking, Lu Tuvin's eyes widened, his expression terrified and incredulous at the sight before him. He looked at Truck Hung Tu, who was trembling and speaking. No way someone could know that name. Lang Tian stood in the distance, observing the exchange between them. He put his hand on his chin, a thoughtful expression on his face. He thought to himself. This Truck Hung Tu is pretty formidable. I just guessed Lu Tuvin's V lineage, but this guy knows it all. Truck Hung Tu leaped into the air, surrounded by countless swords. Today, I will eliminate you, a VU traitor, on behalf of all the human race in the central continent. Die, Lu Tuvin! He shouted. The swords surrounding him quickly darted towards Lu Tuvin. The swords, like powerful beams of light, flew towards him. He stood motionless, his eyes wide with surprise as he watched the swords rushing at him. A loud explosion followed by billowing clouds of dust rising from the ground. After his attack, Truck Hung Tu quickly descended. He turned away, his expression full of contempt, not even bothering to strike. Suddenly, from behind, a loud laugh echoed, causing him to freeze. Truck Hung Tu slowly turned his head. His eyes widened in shock as he looked up. Before Truck Hung Tu stood a colossal figure. He looked up, stunned, and exclaimed. You're joking. It was Lu Tuyuan, transformed into a demon, with glowing eyes and a massive frame, staring towards them. Lu Tuyuan's expression was ferocious. He roared. Since you know my secret, none of you will leave here alive. Lu Tuyuan's enormous body radiated an aura of immense killing intent. His body was adorned with Truck Hung Tu's swords. Truck Hung Tu stared at the man in astonishment, thinking to himself, hit by Jian Fanning Ju. Not only was he unscathed, he even became stronger. The spiritual energy in his body had completely disappeared, replaced by a strange, dark power. The dark energy emanating from the man's body suddenly wrapped around Truck Hung Tu's sword. Instantly, the sword was drawn with extraordinary ease. They were quickly thrown to the ground, the sword snapping in two. He stood there dumbfounded, silently asking himself, this power, can it be alive? He has to attack first. Immediately, Truck Hung Tu reacted quickly, continuing to use his hand to control his sword and attack the man. The swords, carrying the radiant light of power, hurtled toward him. Suddenly, one of Lu Tuvin's hands turned black due to the dark power. Sharp, long claws gradually appeared on his hand. Then, he raised his hand and swiped through the swords flying towards him, causing them to shatter into pieces. Realizing he couldn't stand a chance, Truck Hung Tu's face turned pale. He was terrified. He couldn't believe he had easily broken his 100 swords curse. This man's power was beyond anything he could handle. Lu Tuveen looked at him and said, "Before me and my profound arcane arts, your pathetic tricks of the human race are nothing." Then, he slammed his hand down on the ground. His footmark appeared on the ground, followed by a massive amount of dark energy. He took a step towards Truck Hung Tu and exclaimed, "This is the terror of the VU clan." At this moment, Truck Hung Tu froze, staring at him, thinking, "This speed I can't dodge." Suddenly, a bright yellow light flashed. He opened his eyes wide, staring ahead in shock. Before him was the image of Ling Tian. He was raising his hand, using his protective shield to block the attack for Truck Hung Tu's day. He shouted, "Master." Sensing Truck Hung Tu's power, he quickly commanded, "This guy is not your opponent right now. Step back, Hung Tu." He respectfully replied, "Yes, master." Seeing Ling Tian finally appear, Lu Tuveen spoke up, "You finally decided to show up, demon? Let's fight." Ling Tian looked at him, his expression darkening. In his mind he thought, this guy's power is too terrifying. If I hadn't used the absolute blocking card, I might be dead now. My current spiritual power can't use the absolute zone. To defeat him, I can only use the right props. Before he could answer, the old man quickly swung his arm, preparing to attack. Ling Tian quickly crushed a skill card. The system announced that the 100 transmissions card had been activated. He quickly swung his arm. From his fist, lightning bolts converged, engulfing his hand. Ling Tian and Truck Hung Tu's attacks collided simultaneously. An incredibly powerful force emanated from both of their attacks. The impact of the immense spiritual energy sent both of them reeling backwards, skidding across the ground. Seeing him block his attack, the old man exclaimed, "You managed to block my 100 soul nether grasp. You truly deserve the title of Demon King." Ling Tian, on the other side, gritted his teeth, his mind filled with astonishment. The power concentrated in that punch was terrifying. If I hadn't used the 100 transmissions card, my body would have exploded. The mysterious dark power now enveloped Lo Tuveen's hand. He suggested, "I think there's no need to waste any more time. Let's skip the pretense and get to it." He stood across from you, intently observing, searching for a point of attack, his mind racing, all his strength concentrated in his left hand. Seeing you remain silent, he wasted no time, quickly raising his hand high, gathering his dark power, launching his strongest attack to decide the outcome. At that moment, the sky darkened, surrounding everything. The dark energy gathered from all around, forming a massive vortex in the sky, descending towards Lu Tuveen. Ling Tian, witnessing the scene before him, was stunned, silently exclaiming in his mind, "This power can even control the clouds." "Wait, those aren't clouds. They're ghosts." Seeing the situation becoming increasingly dire, Truck Hung Tu, standing beside you, watched with concern, shouting a warning, "It's dangerous, master. Run." Hearing Truck Hung Tu's words, he laughed triumphantly. "Run? Ha ha, no one can escape these spirits. They won't stop until they catch you. Even in hell, they won't spare you." As soon as he finished speaking, he quickly commanded the spirits towards him. From high up in the sky, the spirits, gathering in a large circle, quickly rushed down. The spirits he had summoned were falling towards Ling Tian. Seeing the situation was extremely dangerous, Ling Tian quickly used his last card, thinking to himself, "This last Hai Nap Bak Shuyan card must hold." His spirits were getting closer and closer to him. They were all hungry spirits, their mouths wide open, waiting to devour him. Ling Tian didn't dodge. He stood still, waiting. Right now, the ghosts are rushing towards him, trying to devour him. Seeing that Ling Tian has been swallowed whole by the ghosts, Truck Hung Tu is afraid and shouts loudly, "Master!" The ghosts continue to descend from above. Having achieved their goal, the ghosts begin to fade. They quickly disappear, leaving a clear blue sky as before. Lu Tuveen stands right next to them, watching and laughing triumphantly. "Ha ha! Ha ha!" This move not only makes the body ache as if it were being torn apart by thousands of demons, but also plunges the person into an endless nightmare. The more he speaks, the more his expression becomes crazed and arrogant. "This is the most fitting death for you, great demon!" Suddenly, his attack changed rapidly, spreading outwards. Ling Tian remained standing, his posture still incredibly dignified. Seeing him unharmed and unaffected, he was astonished and exclaimed, "No, that's impossible! No one can withstand the 100 ghosts' attack. Your breath. Demonic power. Impossible, absolutely impossible." As he spoke, his body trembled even more. Ling Tian opened his eyes, their blackness deep and profound. Looking at him, Lo Tuveen couldn't believe his own eyes, his body trembling as he stammered, "How can a human learn the power of a demon?" A dark energy radiated from Ling Tian's body. He looked at the old man, his voice filled with disdain. "Is this your strongest attack?" The old man looked at him in shock. Ling Tian was raising his hand, summoning energy into his palm. He spoke. Now, I will let you experience the true power of 100 ghosts attacking. From above, a dragon with boundless energy appeared before them. Lo Tuveen exclaimed. This technique only the Supreme Emperor of the Vu tribe could use it. No one has reached this level for thousands of years since his death. How can a mere human use our tribe's divine power? It's impossible. What trick are you using? He still couldn't believe his own eyes. He trembled and asked. There is no trick in the world that can perform the Vu tribe's ultimate divine power. Who are you? Could you be? He ignored his question, his expression darkened. This ends here. Embrace your death. He quickly extended his hand forward to attack him. The black dragon, under his control, opened its mouth wide and roared furiously. Lo Tuveen could only stand motionless, his eyes following the dragon's path as it charged towards him. Suddenly, he collapsed to his knees. He knelt before him and exclaimed. Truly, heaven favors the West. The day the Vu tribe rises is not far away. Lo Tuveen pays his respects. May you be cautious in the future. He bowed deeply to him. Immediately after, the dragon transformed into a massive energy source, engulfing his entire body. He looked at the scene before him, his face cold and unmoving. Suddenly, a cold, sinister smile spread across his lips as he uttered. Heaven has a western frontier. Ling Tian's eyes, black as night, radiated an aura of killing intent, sending shivers down everyone's spine. In a flash, his eyes returned to their normal state. Ling Tian, with a stone-cold expression, gazed ahead without a flicker of emotion. Lu Tuyuan froze, his body still kneeling before him. His eyes darkened, devoid of any trace of color. Truck Hung Tu stepped forward, placing his hand on Lu Tuyuan's shoulder. He looked at Ling Tian and asked, Is he dead? Then, Truck Hung Tu swiftly pushed Lu Tuyuan away. Seeing his body smiling, Truck Hung Tu exclaimed in confusion. He's smiling even in death. What a strange fellow. Ling Tian looked at him and said, Hung Tu, I will go down the mountain to bury this man. You take the 2 female disciples, tie them up, and wait for me to return for interrogation. He bowed his head respectfully and replied, Yes, master. On the mountain, deep in the forest, Ling Tian stood silently, intently looking at Lu Tuveen's grave. Suddenly, he remembered the words of the man before his death. Indeed, heaven has a west realm. The day the Vu tribe rises is not far away. Lu Tuveen pays his respects. In the future, be careful. Ling Tian raised his hand to his chin, wondering, What do these words mean? What's their significance? It seems like he knew me. But what connection do I have with the Vu tribe? After absorbing his 100 souls attack using the 100 crosses sea gathering card, my consciousness became a bit hazy. But when I use that Vu tribe power, it feels seamless. Suddenly, the system appeared. System notification. Killed the alien, protected the position of the Xianming sect, received reward points. 2,000 points. Discovered that the host's use of the Vu tribe's divine technique made Lu Tuveen extremely admire, received an additional reward. 1,000 points. Seeing the number of points he had earned, Ling Tian, who was in a state of tension, became very happy. 3,000 points in hand, he could spend them again. The system appeared again, giving out a notification, activating a side quest. Do not offend me, and I will not offend you. If you offend me, you will be punished. The host is asked to swear to protect the Xianming sect even unto death. Reminder, this quest is a long-term quest, with no time limit. However, if the system finds the host doing something against it, you will die. Ling Tian's expression turned pale after reading the message, silently blaming the system in his head. What kind of system would threaten someone's life like that? Don't play me. In the prison cell, Junie was hanging from chains, her body still in a state of unconsciousness. Suddenly her body trembled, showing signs of waking up. Then, she slowly opened her eyes. Observing the space before her, she wondered to herself, this place is... After regaining her composure, she turned her head and saw Fong Bak Dao, then exclaimed, Senior sister. Fong Bak Dao's expression was gloomy, and she didn't respond. Seeing this, Junie questioned, what exactly happened? Could it be that master lost? Hearing this, she hesitated and replied, he is dead. Upon hearing this, it was like a bolt from the blue. Junie looked up, her eyes wide with astonishment. Her body couldn't stop trembling, her face turned pale, not believing a word of Senior Sister Dao's statement. She trembled and said, Dead, it's impossible, Senior Sister, don't lie to me. Master is the 10th ranked master on the elite long list, how could? Seeing Senior Sister Dao's vacant eyes, not replying, she also guessed what was happening. Her tears rolled down her cheeks, her body trembling constantly. No. At this moment, the prison cell door opened. Ling Tian walked in. As soon as she saw him, Junie's tears streamed down her face. She roared with anger. Ling Tian! I must kill you! Release me! I must avenge my master. Facing her resistance and struggles, a murderous aura emanated from him. He looked at her and asked in a harsh voice, Do you want to go with him? As he finished his sentence, her expression immediately turned pale. But right after that, Zhu and I yelled loudly, "Even if I am not as strong as you, even if I have to lose my life, I must avenge my master. I must kill." But before she could finish, Fong Bokdao next to her angrily shouted, "Shut up." At Fong Bokdao's reaction, Zhu Ni's expression was startled. She trembled and said, "Senior sister, could it be that you have forgotten how master took in strays like us? Without master, how could we have lived to this day? Do you want to betray master?" She quickly turned to shout loudly. Seeing her sister's bewilderment, tears streamed down her face as she cried out in pain, "That person is from the Wu tribe." As soon as Fong Bokdao finished speaking, the surrounding air immediately fell silent. Zhu and I still couldn't believe what she saw. She trembled and asked again, "Senior sister, you've never lied to me. How could master be?" Her eyes grew increasingly vacant as she replied, "If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it." Flashing back to the time she fought alongside Truck Hung Tu, his sword stopped just before reaching her face. Then, the sword quickly vanished before her. Stunned, she asked, "Why didn't you kill me?" Truck Hung Tu replied coldly, "To let you see the truth, little girl." She echoed his words. "The truth?" he asked. "If I'm not mistaken, both you and your sister lost your families and loved ones to the Wu tribe, right?" After hearing that, her eyes widened in shock and her voice trembled as she spoke. "How could you? Only my master and Bamboo's sister should know this," Bamboo Xingtu replied. "I saw their reactions when they heard that Li Yuntian was a demon. What I'm about to tell you might shock you. Your master is a demon." Upon hearing him expose the truth, Fong Bokdao was stunned and couldn't believe what she was hearing. Immediately, she refuted him. "Don't talk nonsense. Back then, our master took us in and taught us martial arts, hoping that one day she could personally avenge our parents." Bamboo Xingtu put his hand to his chin, a sinister smile spreading across his lips as he suggested, "If you don't believe me, why don't we put on a show? The truth will come out." Back in the present, Dao's senior sister recalled the scene she had witnessed, her voice trembling. "Following Bamboo Xingtu's instructions, I pretended to faint. Then I saw with my own eyes my master transform into a demon." Bamboo Nhi looked at her, unable to believe the information she had just received. How could this be? How could this be?" From down below, Ling Tian spoke. "The Yuan Yang Dian you're so proud of has long been infiltrated by the Vu clan. The name of the first heavenly order of righteousness has been tarnished by those alien beings." After speaking, he gestured with his hand. The chains binding them disappeared, and they were promptly released. Having accomplished what he wanted, he turned to leave. "You may go." Suddenly, a sound came from behind him. He quickly turned around. Before him, the two of them knelt in unison. "Senior Lang, please accept us," Juni spoke. "From this day forward, we pledge our allegiance to Senior Lang." Fong Bokdao added beside him, "Eliminate the remaining foreign barbarians." Lang Tian raised his hand to his chin, thoughtfully asking, "Joining my Xianmin sect with the identity of the Yuanyang Palace? Do you two know the storm it will bring to the martial world?" Hearing this, both of them suddenly froze. They felt extremely regretful and exclaimed in unison, "We didn't think this through. Doing so will indeed put Xianmin's sect in the eye of the storm." Facing their reaction, he suddenly burst into laughter. "Ha ha ha." Then, he put his hand behind his back and asked, "Xianmin's sect has already become the center of the storm. I want to ask, are you two ready to enter the eye of the storm?" Seeing this, the two looked at him with an expression of utter surprise. Zhu Enai and Fong Bokdao looked at each other, silently agreeing. They both spoke in unison. "Master Ling, please accept our bow." The system displayed a notification, confirming the acceptance of Fong Bokdao and Lin Zhu Enai as disciples, awarding 100 points for exchange. Night had fallen. On a mountain in the forest, Lu Tuyuan's tomb showed signs of being dug up. Rocks and dirt were piled around it. Approaching closer, the tomb was now only a deep pit. The body was missing. On the other side of the forest, a black bag, carefully wrapped, is thrown forcefully to the ground. A person wearing a conical hat kneels and reports, "Lu Tu Vin's body has been brought back." The leader, arms crossed, asks, "Nobody saw anything, right?" "He is the leader of the Seoul Electric Palace," Xiaoyu Chin Hop. The shrouded man replies, "No flaws." At this moment, from above, a blinding, golden beam of light shines down. A subordinate looks up and exclaims, "What is that?" "Beast." The bald subordinate looks at the divine bird and says in surprise, "No, this light is a divine beast." Qu Jinghe watched intently, he added, "Chongming bird, a heavenly grade divine beast." The subordinate behind him bowed and reported, "Master, I didn't expect to encounter such a divine beast on this trip. It's predicted that great fortune awaits you and our spirit soul hall." Seeing this, he pointed towards the divine beast and laughed gleefully. "Ha! You capture it for me." The two subordinates behind him quickly obeyed. "Yes, master." The bald subordinate's eyes widened. He exclaimed, "There's someone on that bird." Suddenly, an attack from above descended, sending dust and smoke billowing into the air. Qu Jinghe stood still, looking ahead and observing. As the smoke and dust cleared, a familiar voice rang out, a voice I hadn't heard in a long time. "You vile beast!" It was Ling Tian. Upon seeing him, the man was stunned and exclaimed, "Master." At his reaction, the two subordinates turned to each other and whispered, "Master?" "The palace lord's master?" After confirming his identity, the two subordinates turned pale. The bald one stammered, "So, this is our demon Dao ancestor Ling Tian?" The bald one trembled, turning to whisper to his companion, "They say everyone who meets him ends up dead." The other one tried to reassure him, Don't be afraid. Our palace lord will protect us." Qiu Jinghe was suddenly unusually gentle. He awkwardly raised his hand, looking shyly at Ling Tian and asked, "My master, are you out for a breath of fresh air?" We didn't mean to intrude on your enjoyment, did we?" Before his reaction, the two subordinates immediately froze, asking in unison, "Master, what are you doing?" Ling Tian looked at the sack in front of him, and his face turned cold as he interrogated, "You fiend, why did you send people to my absolute love mountain to dig up graves?" Cui Jing he looked embarrassed. He put his hand up to his face and scratched, Seeing him not answer, he became furious and shouted, "You fiend, I ask again." But before he could finish, Cui Jing he suddenly knelt down. He cowed out and pleaded, trembling, "Master, I confess. Please have mercy, spare my life." The two subordinates looked at him and fell silent, not knowing what to say. The system appeared. System notification. Detected a 50% increase in loyalty from the vicious beast, Jinghe. Status, hostile. Detected a loyalty increase from -70% to -50% in the vicious beast, Jinghe. Awarded bonus exchange points, 500 points. Looking at the system notification, he looked at him with a helpless expression, thinking to himself, his loyalty is so easy to raise? As expected of Jinghe, as cowardly as a rabbit. Immediately after, Ling Tian angrily shouted, "If your master finds out you lied, you're dead for sure." He replied sincerely, "Disciple dare not. Disciple only took the body. I didn't participate in digging up the grave. It was all third brother's instructions." Hearing Jinghe's statement, Ling Tian looked at him, his eyes full of confusion. "Third brother? What does he want Lu Tuyuan's body for?" Jinghe honestly reported, "Disciple doesn't know. Moreover, Disciple didn't dare to ask. I just took the body and came here." Ling Tian lifted his hand to his chin, his expression thoughtful as he pondered. This guy didn't seem to be lying. After all, Lu Tuvin's body wouldn't be of any use to him, but it would be entirely different if it fell into the hands of Lin Muxian. After a while, he looked at the man again and asked, "You vile creature, do you think you can trade your life for what you just said?" As soon as he finished speaking, the two men who were his subordinates simultaneously knelt down. They both cried at the same time. The black-haired one spoke. "Master of the demon path, you are so merciful. Please spare us." The bald one continued, "We and the palace master truly just followed orders. We had no idea what was going on." Seeing their reaction, Ling Tian became extremely enraged. He thought to himself, "True enough, these disciples were taught by Qiu Jinghe." His subordinates were crying and pleading. "Grandmaster, please have mercy, hu. Ling Tian angrily shouted. "Shut your mouths if you don't want to die." As soon as he finished speaking, the two subordinates quickly shut their mouths. They didn't dare say another word. Ling Tian looked at him and said, "Xiaoyu Jinghe, you only have one path left. Return to the Mingjiao with me." His eyes flared with anger, and he roared, "Otherwise." Before he could finish his sentence, his eyes widened in surprise. In front of him, the man's figure suddenly vanished. Ling Tian wondered in his mind, where did Xiaoyu Jinghe go? His eyes widened, and he quickly turned his head back. There was Xiaoyu Jinghe. Now he knelt down, stretched out his hand in front of Ling Tian, and bowed in supplication. "Let us go, master. Your disciple is ready." Turning his head back, his expression was utterly helpless. He thought to himself, "I never thought this guy would be so afraid of death. His martial art is so fast, it could even rival someone at the peak of the martial god realm." Without a moment's hesitation, he turned and left. "Let's go immediately." Xiaoyu Qinhop turned back and responded, "Yes." Seeing him leave like that, the disciples behind him couldn't stop crying, "Master, are you going to abandon us?" He couldn't hold back his tears either. As he left, he told them, "From today on, the real Soul Temple no longer exists. Go back to the old place, don't wait for me." The two subordinates looked at his back, and both said in unison, "Master, be careful." After walking a few steps, he sensed his surroundings and asked, "Hey, you hiding behind the tree, you are the one who dug up the grave, right?" The cloaked man trembled and begged, "Master, spare my life." He turned his head, looked at the cloaked man and ordered, "Bury the body back where you found it." "Understand?" He stood before you, respectfully replying, "Yes, Master Lang, rest assured." Under the cloak of night, the wise bird slowly returned with you. Ling Tian sat in front, while Qiu Jinghe sat quietly behind.